Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. Now pretty recently I did my own wish list for update 1.26 and like I said, if we get enough comments and enough suggestions, I will make a community edition. I did this between, I believe, just before update 1.23 and I'm going to do the same here before update 1.26 or 27, whatever they decide to call it, but I'm going to assume it's going to be like 1.26. So we'll go off that for now, but it's pretty cool to kind of gather, every few months or so where the communities are, if, Polyphony have added things that the community has been crying out for, if they haven't, and just kind of gather what people are really wanting out of Gran Turismo 7. And maybe one day, I mean I highly doubt this, but maybe one day these kind of videos will reach Polyphony and they'll see what exactly their community actually wants from GT7, because I feel like many people in the community, myself and many of the very regular players, whether you're casual, pro, etc., have just been kind of felt quite ignored to what we actually want out of this game. So let's jump into it. So the first one we have, and this one is actually top of the list at the time of viewing the comments, we have from Johnny Middleton. He says, I think they should add more big payout events that people can grind for credits and championships based off of some of the menu books, i.e. a historic sports car masters championship that features maybe 5 races at varying lengths at different tracks, or a Ferrari or a Nissan championship with different PP limits depending on the brand. Now most of you will know my opinion on this. I fully agree that we need more big payout events. Now I feel like the main issue with GT7 is they are adding a ton of events, however the pay has been awful ever since I believe April, May time, when they actually added the 3 kind of main grinders along with stuff like Spa, the 1 hour at Spa. Since then we've not really had anything else in terms of higher paying events, and they're the events that most people are going to gravitate towards too, especially when it comes to buying all the cars in a game, which is kind of sort of the goal for most people. Most people want to buy these cars, want to buy these 20 million plus cars, 19 million plus cars, but it's very out of reach if we're just running these random events which they kind of add in each update. Now they've had many chances to actually add these higher payout events. I believe it was the 800 Tokyo in I believe a couple of updates ago was a massive chance for it to be an endurance event, or kind of more in line with the pay of the other Tokyo event, the 600, and it just wasn't, and it was a massive disappointment. The same with kind of the Fuji one, which got added in the latest update. I felt like if they'd have just upped that payout a bit more, even though it was a bit of a shorter race, and brought it a little bit more in line with stuff like Sardinia and that, it would have been absolutely perfect, and it would have been another event for us to just sit and grind and just kind of added to the roster of events that are actually worth going back to, because most people are doing these events once and then completely disappearing. And then he goes on to say stuff like the Ferrari and Nissan events and such. Now, essentially what this is manufacturer events, which we used to have in previous Gran Turismos. And while they're kind of there with like the Porsche Cup, I believe, something like that, and there's like a Ferrari kind of menu book, they're not exactly proper manufacturer events. I totally agree. I'd love to see those make a proper return in the game. Up next we have Big Sarge, and he says we have plenty of cars, we need more tracks and more events to use them. I want bigger payouts and a better roulette system. Now it kind of mixes in with what I've just said about the events. Yes, we need better payout events, 100% agree. My personal workaround for that, and it actually saves Polyphony time of actually adding these events, is just up the payout of custom races. It completely voids the need for them to keep adding events, and they can focus elsewhere within GT7, up in those custom races, payouts, or whatever you want to call them, and bringing them more in line to what actually we get paid out from stuff like Sardinia, and that would just be a massive overhaul. If I do a 24-hour race, I don't want to get paid out 200k, I want to get paid out a good few million, make it worth my time. And then it kind of also adds that people will be more willing to do these custom races in their own kind of way. You can do exactly what you want from the game. game. I just feel like that would be an absolutely awesome change, and it saves PD time, you know, focusing on adding these events which most people play once and never go back to. In terms of the, you know, we've got enough cars. Now, I agree there's a lot of cars in the game. No, it's nowhere near the number of, you know, classic GT titles, but it's kind of expected. It takes a lot more time to make these cars, even though it is kind of proven they have a bunch already ready to go, which have not been released for months. You know, we've been known about them, I think since like May time or something, and they've still not put them in the game. But, you know, yes, we have plenty of cars, but there's still plenty of real, like, proper classic GT cars, or I say GT cars, so cars from previous Gran Turismos, which are completely missing for some reason, even though they've already been kind of leaked or hinted at. There's a few manufacturers which most people seem to want back, main one being Lotus, and I am fully behind that. But yeah, so I can't massively agree with we've got enough cars. I feel like the current roster we've got is quite weak and very kind of just brought over from GT Sport. There's a few additions that I really like, you know, such as the one you're seeing on screen, the hypercar and such. You know, there's a ton of kind of cars that are missing, which I feel like the GT fan base will go absolutely crazy for. You know, look what happened when the Escudo Pikes Peak was brought back. People were absolutely going crazy for that car, as well as having Watkins Glen at the same time. I feel like that was probably the best update we've ever had to this game. Now let's touch on the better roulette system. I completely agree. The roulette system is awful. I do not like it. I think it's absolutely terrible. In GT Sport, you used to get rewarded a car a day, and even if it wasn't the best of cars, or it was one that you already had, you know, it was still much more worth your while kind of add into that car collection than it was, you know, the likes of what we've got now, where most of the time you'll end up getting 2, 5, 10 grand, 30 grand max, you know, for a good few days in a row before, you know, probably once or twice a month getting a car, probably once every 3 or 4 months actually getting an engine swap, and probably, I think I've only hit the jackpot 3 times, and I've played every day since release. So yeah, it's just not looking too good. That roulette system is absolutely horrendous. People have complained about it, then they've kind of upped the chances in the background. They never actually noted this, however, but data miners did see that they kind of up your chances of getting better tickets the higher level you were, and they've kind of increased that over time, but that doesn't really make up for it when most of the prizes, even in your 4 or 5 star roulette tickets, are absolutely awful. Sometimes you just get part tickets. They are pointless. Like, the worst thing I've ever seen is getting a 6-star ticket and it being a parts ticket, and then I get a part for a car that I'm never ever going to use. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yes, a massive overhaul to the roulette system would be great. I feel like they really need to, you know, either just get rid of it entirely or completely just redo the system. It can't be that hard. It's so rigged against the player as well. So yeah, I can massively get behind this broken roulette system. Then we have Igor. He says he wants more 30-min endurance races and more BMWs. Now, you know, in terms of the endurance races, I think most of you know my opinion on this. Yes, we need more. We need longer events. The endurance races are some of the best races in the game. They've always been some of the highlights of any Gran Turismo. You know, there's nothing cooler than slogging away for, you know, 8 hours at Suzuka, just trying your best just to get first place, and then, you know, finally going across that line and getting that win is just an absolutely incredible feeling. You feel like you properly achieved something. You know, I remember, I believe like 2010, 2011, when GT5 was around and we had the Suzuka, I can't remember how many kilometers, but I think it took around about 8 hours, and I was doing it in one of the, I believe it was a Honda HSV concept or something like that. Absolutely loved it. One of the best memories I've ever got from any Gran Turismo, you know, even as far back as Gran Turismo 2 with the Grand Valley endurance and such. They're just so memorable and absolutely awesome, and I feel like if they just tap into that nostalgia of, you know, even the 4-hour MX5 Cups or the Roadster Cups, whatever you want to call them, that we've had, you know, I feel like it would massively change a lot of people's opinions, because whilst the endurance races were good that got added, they were all only like an hour long, so you was done pretty quickly with them, and the fact that they're all the same hour. Now, I do kind of have a theory that maybe there's some kind of rules behind it these days, especially in Asia. Now, hear me out, this might sound, you know, way left field, but if you look at a lot of news reports, you hear about a lot of people in the Asia region gaming in cafes and stuff like that, and then doing ridiculously long stints on games and dying of heart attacks and stuff. Now, I know that sounds really morbid, but it's quite common over there. It's much more common than, you know, over here. You still hear of it, but, you know, it seems like there's a lot of deaths going on in these gamer casts or whatever they're called. And, you know, I feel like, maybe where the game originates from, obviously being Japan, in the Asia region and such, there's probably a lot more kind of rules and laws. I'd like to think that way, and I think that's a possibility, because even as far as GT6, there was kind of a lot of, you know, the events weren't as long, as far as I can remember anyway, as things like GT5, GT4, GT3, and you know, etc. So yeah, maybe they cannot legally do it. I kind of want to think that way, but if they can, you know, get them in, just do it, play on people's nostalgia, and I can guarantee people will come flooding back and people will start covering this game again. Up next we have one from Raddy. He says new single player missions. Now I'm going to assume he's on about the missions that we got with pretty much the base game. It's where the first lot of endurance races were added, and I completely agree. Now I feel like this cannot be too hard to implement in each or every few updates. Now the missions have been completely left alone since them endurance races were, you know, kind of there, and I don't think I've even gone back to even look over the menu since I completed those endurance missions. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it can't be too hard, even if it's just a small bunch of missions, like more along the lines of like the license tests and stuff, or maybe just some overtaking and that. I feel like it would massively, you know, add to the game. So yeah, I cannot agree more. I'd love some more, you know, just missions to cover, because I feel like they're quite chill. Some are quite challenging, and I just feel like they was just a bit different from the standard, you know, race around for a certain amount of laps. He also says special miles separate from daily miles. He says, for example, miles today, driving a VGT concept car for 10 races and getting an engine swap card, and more road cars, he says as well. So I'm going to assume, like with the special miles, he's essentially talking about, you know, kind of like challenges, so daily challenges to do. So you have your normal miles, you'll get your roulette ticket for that, and then probably have a bunch of side challenges, maybe in line with something like, you know, what Call of Duty, Fortnite and all that lot does, where you have your dailies to do. I feel like this would actually keep people playing longer than what your daily miles would be, because there's a really quick way to do your daily miles, and that's what most people do. They'll jump in the Tomahawk, go to Special Route X, and then essentially just whip themselves around for all of 2 minutes. They've got the roulette ticket, they can log off for the day. I feel like having those daily challenges and just giving us a bit of a bonus for doing them, whether it's just even a tiny bit more cash, would just actually keep people, you know, here for more than 30 minutes a day. You know, I just feel like it's a pretty good idea, to be fair. So yeah, I fully agree with that. You know, give us some little mini challenges each day, like driving key cars, driving cars from Japan, driving Nissans, driving cars from America or Europe, or, you know, Jaguar and stuff like that, or, you know, do certain things in those cars or certain events in those cars. You know, give us a reason to keep going back, you know, each and every day to maybe different events and such. So yeah, massively agree there. So that's going to be it for the community suggestions. There was a bunch of ones just saying, look, get rid of microtransactions and such. Now, I just don't think they're going to do that. I feel like it's far too orientated towards them for them to just outright remove them straight away. Maybe over time that's a possibility as the game gets a little bit older. But will they probably do that? No, I don't see that happening. Then you have a bunch just saying, like, you know, just play on nostalgia, more tracks, more cars. Look, I mean, you're going to get that over time, but I completely agree they need to just sort of hurry up, because I feel like interest is massively dying out around Gran Turismo 7 now. You know, it's coming up towards the festive period, there's a bunch more games coming out, and people are probably just going to gravitate towards them, even if it's a completely different genre. You know, you see it all the time. So, you know, hopefully Polyphony do maybe take note of what people are wanting from this game and implement these changes a little bit quicker, because to be honest, yeah, I just feel like interest at Gran Turismo 7 is just at an absolute minimum at the minute. You know, me personally, I absolutely love the game, don't get me wrong. You know, I've completely enjoyed my time with it, I've completely loved covering it, and I will continue to cover it, but, you know, I just feel like this lack of, you know, even a roadmap by Polyphony is just really kind of weaning away any kind of hype for the game, because we don't know what's up and coming. They're not communicating what's coming, and I feel like we just kind of get a trailer and we're all just kind of, you know, just left wanting more each time we see one of those trailers. I mean, for me, update 1.25, whilst it was a better update seeing that trailer didn't really sell me on it. I just remember feeling so angry, like, look, you know, this game's been out for quite a bit now, interest is fading, and again you still continue to just ignore what players want from the game. But that's going to be it for today's video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I am returning to GT7, don't worry about that. I'm just kind of, you know, working on some longer things currently. So that's going to be it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.